Okay, so malaria. We've all heard about it. It's a huge global importance, and it's caused by a tiny parasite that lives inside our red blood cells. And it kills up to about 1 million people every year. Now, there's actually two main types of malaria that infect humans. There's Falciparum, which causes the most deaths, and then there's Vivax, which just doesn't kill as many people, even though it affects as many people across the world in a much greater area. Now, there's some differences between these parasites, but we still don't really know why one kills and one doesn't. But Falciparum can infect all of our red blood cells, and Vivax can only infect young red blood cells. So Vivax can only infect 5% of our cells at any time, whereas Falciparum can infect all of them, and as it goes through each round of replication, it explodes out of the red blood cells, and so you can get massive anemia. Another issue with Falciparum is that it can stick inside capillaries. And when it sticks inside the brain, it occludes the blood vessels, causing coma and death. This is the greatest cause of death, really, in malaria. Now, the way that it enables itself to stick, the parasite lives inside the red blood cell. It's surrounded by a membrane, and it has to export proteins out of the parasite all the way to the red blood cell membrane, where it forms these sticky knobs all over itself so it can avoid the immune system. And we know that to export these proteins, these sticky bits, it has to be unfolded to get through the membrane. And in our lab, where a lot of us work on this complex that it has to pass through to get out. And one member of this complex is a large protein called heat shock protein 100. And this protein always needs a helper. And these helper chaperone proteins are required to keep the protein unfolded like a dad taking you to the school gate, pushing it through the gate, and then someone else has to pick it up on the other side, refold it, and send it off on its merry way. So we didn't know where this chaperone protein came from. It was always thought that the parasite must use a host protein for this. But recently, we looked bioinformatically, and we found one that we think is actually in the parasite itself. And I made some antibodies to it, and looked under microscopy, and we can see that it is in this membrane area with these other large protein gates. But also, surprisingly, we found that it's exported fully into the red blood cell itself. And this is really surprising. This could mean the reason why Falciparum can invade these older red blood cells, because it's got its own chaperone there, and usually the red blood cell, as the red blood cell ages, it loses these chaperones. So if this is the reason that Falciparum can invade older red blood cells, and it's also the reason it can stick, then this could be a huge target. And this number behind me is the number of people who die every year since we've been sat here, sorry.